Welcome once again to this class. Musical instruments like the trumpet, like the trombone, and the tuba and other brass instruments are what we are going to be studying in this class. They are brass, they are made with brass, and they are air blown. As a result, we refer to them as wind instruments, brass wind instruments. These categories of instruments, they are very popular, and because of their usefulness in music and the way over the years they have been incorporated into music, it demands us that we are going to look into them and look at their usefulness, their varieties, the various types of brass instruments. And let's go straight into the class. At the end of the class, I'll be back to see how much. We are going to be looking at the topic wind musical instruments. Wind musical instruments. First and foremost, let's look at the definition of wind instruments. What do we mean when we are referring to wind instruments? The instrument that produces sound as a result of air that is blown into it, that instrument can be classified as a wind instrument. Of course, we know that there are different types of wind instruments. Basically, they can be divided into two groups. We have the brass wind instrument, and then the second group is the woodwind instrument. Now, let's take them one after the other. The brass wind instruments. Now, these are instruments that are predominantly made of brass. Then another thing we notice about the brass wind instrument is that they don't use the reed, which is the wooden piece that is at the mouthpiece of the instrument. They don't use any reed there, and most often they make use of the valve mechanism. Some of them, like the trombone, makes use of the slide mechanism, and then most of them they are transposing instruments. So these are the special features with the brass winds instrument. Now we want to look at some of the popular brass wind instruments, and let's identify some of these features we just mentioned now in this instrument, like the one we have on the screen. That is a euphonium. You can see that the euphonium is a brass wind instrument. It has the valves. You use the valves to get the notes that for the sound to come out of the instrument. And then it's not only the euphonium that is in this category. Now let's look at others. We have the first one is the trumpet. We have the trumpet. The trumpet is a very popular brass wind instrument. It has mixes of three valves, and then it has a mouthpiece, and then the bell usually is in front of the player. It just protrudes in front. And then we equally have the next one, which is the French horn, which is another example of a brass wind instrument. The French horn has a very small mouthpiece. It equally uses the valve. These two set of brass wind instruments, they are examples of instruments that we can classify as transposing instruments. I will talk more on that when we have looked at all the other kinds of brass winds instruments. Then let's take this other example. We have the trombone. The trombone is one instrument that uses the slide mechanism. That is, for the notes that comes out when the player, you take the mouthpiece to your mouth, and then you apply pressure and try to make the instrument sound. And now you observe that you have to slide. Pull the slide either forward or backward to yourself, and then you are, in doing that, you are able to get out the various notes and the various pitches, the different pitches that the instrument produces, and that gives you the melody that you want from the instrument. So the trombone of the family of the brass wind instrument is the instrument that uses the slide mechanism. There's no other instrument among the brass wind instrument that uses slide mechanism apart from the trombone. Then we now have the tuba. The tuba is the biggest of the brass, and it has the deepest voice, the deepest sound it produces, and that shows that it's very deep, and it's a bass instrument. Usually it is used to play the bass part. The trombone can be used for other parts like the tenor, like the treble, like the alto. It can be used for other parts. We equally have different types of the trombone. For instance, we have other classification. We have the tenor trombone. We have some, depending on the size and their transposing features. Okay, now let's look at this other instrument. Is on the family of the trumpet, is called the cornet. The cornet, it looks like the trumpet. In fact, it's actually designed like the trumpet. The difference between the cornet and the trumpet is that the cornet appears to be smaller. It appears to be smaller. The bell is very, very short. It's very close to the valves, where the finger, the instrument itself is fingered. So these are examples of popular brass wind instrument. There are many more, but these ones that we just looked at now, they are examples of popular brass wind instrument. Now let's listen to a performance of the brass wind as being done by this popular singer Oliver Rodrigo. He did a simple song on the brass wind. Just listen. That is the trumpet playing there. So that is the beauty of the brass. Okay, now let's go to the next category of wind instruments. We want to look at the woodwinds. The woodwinds. When we are talking about the woodwinds, that doesn't necessarily mean that these are instruments that are made of wood. They are woodwind because the instrument that helps in getting the sound out, that gives the texture to the sound, is actually a piece of wood. And this piece of wood is very small, is usually placed at the mouthpiece, and is referred to as the reed. So once the reed is placed on the mouthpiece, and the player takes the mouthpiece to the mouth, and and it blows air into it, and tongue, it's actually called tonguing, and it does that, the vibration from the reed generates the sound that flows out from the bell, from the body of the instrument, and at the end of the day we get the sound we are talking about. So because of that mouthpiece, that reed that is placed the mouthpiece of the instrument, we refer to it as a woodwind instrument. So we have many of them. So most of the woodwind instruments, they make use of reeds. Okay, now we have some that equally make use of double reeds, some make use of single reed. So we just look at some of them and see their unique features as well. So popular woodwind instruments include: number one, the flutes. We have the flutes. The flute is it's a very beautiful instrument. It has 3 compartments. We have the head that houses the mouthpiece, then we have the body that houses the holes where we place our fingers to get our various pitches out, the various notes out, and then we have the tail that is attached, just as we have the recorder also. So but the uniqueness of the flute is that you have to blow across the mouthpiece, and then unlike the other instrument that you just place before you and then you perform them, the flute, you take it to your right hand side if you are right-handed, or to your left hand side if you are left-handed, depending on the construction or the kind of flute that you have, and then you now sound it. It's one kind of flute that when you are playing it, you don't have the opportunity of seeing your fingering or seeing your hand because of the way you place it in your mouth. And then the next one is the recorder. We are quite familiar with the recorder. The recorder comes in different sizes and in different types, but the very one that we find around us is the descant, which is the smallest one, and that is the example that we have on the screen. Now this descant, it has its holes, it has the 3 compartments as well, and then while we play, using the mouthpiece, we send the notes through the mouthpiece, then with the fingering or by covering the holes and releasing them at the appropriate time, we get the correct notes that we want. So that is the recorder for you. Then that is not all. Let's look at the other families of the recorder. We have different types of recorder. We have the descant, which appears to be the smallest. We have the alto. The alto is bigger, like twice the size of the descant. We have the baritone. The baritone recorder, that is quite big, and we equally have the tenor recorder. It's quite big. So in their order, so we have different types of recorder, but the good thing about them is that the principle of playing them is the same, except that as they are getting bigger, sometimes we get to make use of the aid of key parts that we now don't just touch the holes directly because it's getting bigger, and we begin to see us using key parts that we place our hands on. At the end of the day, we're able to get the sound out. Other examples of popular woodwind instruments includes the clarinet. The clarinet, still in the family of the instrument that uses the reed. It has a reed. It uses one reed, and then just like the recorder, the body of the instrument has holes, and then we cover them, and some of the holes we use parts, we touch the key parts, and then the key parts has this mechanism that it goes to cover the hole for you, and then at the end of the day you roll your scales, get your note out. So also we have the saxophone. The saxophone is very common instrument, very popular instrument. It's a woodwind instrument because it uses the reed. Even though predominantly it's made of brass, the body is made of brass, it doesn't pass for a brass wind instrument. It is a woodwind instrument. You can see the reed there. We have different types, different sizes, and it has different names as well for the saxophone. We have the smallest one, which we refer to as the soprano. The soprano can be straight, it can be curved, and then followed by the alto. The alto is quite a little bit bigger than the soprano, and then thereafter we have the tenor. The tenor is bigger than the alto, and the neck of the tenor is quite it slants a little. So that is that. And then the biggest of all is the baritone. So those are the classes of the saxophone. All these instruments, the saxophone, they transpose. They are all transposing instruments, including the clarinet. We'll get to that later. Now let's just continue by looking at some other wind instruments. We have the piccolo. The piccolo is very small instrument. It wants to look like the clarinet. It wants to take the shape of the recorder, but it's very, very small, and it gives us very high pitch notes. Okay, that is how the piccolo is. Just like the flute, we blow across it and we get our notes out. And then we equally have the oboe. The oboe is one instrument that uses the double reed. It uses double reed. That is why others, like the saxophone, like the clarinet, they use just a single reed. The oboe uses the double reed. The oboe is not the only instrument that is in this category. We equally have the bassoon. The bassoon equally uses is a bigger family of the oboe. It uses a double reed as well, and so that is examples of woodwind instruments that we can find around us. Now there is a performance I want you to just watch. This lady, Atia Rene, is a very good professional player on the flute. I want you to see how some of these instruments can sound when you are very good at playing them. Let's listen to them. Okay, because of time, let's quickly continue now. Transposing wind instrument. Let's just look at the transposing wind instrument first. Let's have a look at the brass winds. The brass winds, we have they are all transposing instruments. All brass wind instruments are they transposes. An example is the trumpet. The trumpet is a B flat instrument. That is, when we say an instrument is transposing, what we mean is that when the instrument plays its natural scale, now the sound is a little bit different from what you will hear on the piano. So we have the trumpet is a B flat instrument. What that means is that if the trumpet is sounding its C, is playing its natural scale, which is C, the C natural. Now that's C natural scale. The C natural of the trumpet gives you B flat on the piano. So what if the trumpet is playing C? What you are going to hear on the piano, what you are going to find on the piano is actually a B flat note. So that means for every performance that you have to accompany with a keyboard, for instance, or like playing with other instruments, the trumpet is going to play at a tone higher. That gives us two semitones, because between B and C is a tone. Now another example is the alto saxophone. The alto saxophone uses a minor third, which is 3 semitones. So minor third from whatever key, it sounds that, and then we get that. That's why the alto saxophone, for instance, when it sounds is C, that C is actually the E flat on the piano, which is a minor third. Now for the woodwinds, the transposing instruments for the woodwind family, they include all the saxophones, all the clarinets, the oboe family, the oboe and the bassoon, and these are the transposing instrument. They transposes. The only instrument that does not transpose in the wind family, they are the flutes. The descant recorder, it doesn't transpose. So when you sound their scales, when you sound their notes, you can go to the piano and just check it's the same. It doesn't transpose. So that is the easiest way you should understand transposition in instruments. So this brings us to the end of this lesson. We have said so far that wind instrument uses the wind to produce sound. It can be classified into 2 groups. We have the brass winds, we have the wood winds. Most of the brass winds are transposing instruments. Most of the brass winds, they are transposing. Some are tone transposition, some semitone transposition. Like I said, the trumpet is a tone transposition. It transposes a tone. The octo saxophone is a major third, 3 semitones. The French horn is a perfect fifth or so. So that is how some of these instruments are. Now for the woodwinds, we've said that they make use of reed. We see this reed in the mouthpieces of these instruments, and that is why we can classify them as woodwind instrument. Is the instrumentality of this reed makes it possible for us to get a beautiful sound that comes out from the woodwind instrument. The flutes and the descant recorder are non-transposing instruments. So that is the end of our lesson. I want to believe that you'll be able to do your quizzes hereafter, and don't forget to do your assignments as you are going to be expected to do them. So have a nice day. Bye bye.
Wow, what a wonderful time we've had in class today. We have looked at brass instruments, but this particular instrument is not actually a brass wind, even though it's made partially of brass. This is actually a wind instrument, but we refer to this kind of instrument as a woodwind instrument just because of this wood reed we have here that enables us, that gives us the quality of the sound that we get from the saxophone. So this is an example of a woodwind instrument, which is quite different from the brass winds, which we have looked at in the class today. So in our other class, we're going to have a look into these other categories of instruments that are very common in music. So that is the size of the class today. I hope you have a wonderful time. Don't forget that you are going to take some quizzes as usual, and I want to believe that you are going to do so well this time. See you next time. Bye-bye.